Pake. We're also joined by special celebrity guest Craig, the Obamacare lawyer. Hello, Craig.
Good morning, fellows.
Craig mentioned to me yesterday, whilst we were mountain bike riding, that it's kind of an anniversary of sorts this week on the Armstrong and Getty show. Yeah. Kind of a lame, silly one, but
it's a very special anniversary. There was a 400-some-odd page Obamacare news dump right before Thanksgiving last year, and I was looking through my files, and I noticed that we were here talking about it. And there was a 360-page news dump Obamacare regulation on Friday afternoon that was so quiet it didn't even reach my desk until yesterday morning.
And you do this for a living.
Yeah.
What it was is rather notable and surprising. Yeah. Can you summarize basically what this...
I'll give you the big points of it, and you guys can pull out whatever detail you may want. It's specifically improved bailout terms for insurers in 2015. They're going to get money at an earlier point in time than they were going to get money. Mm-hmm. And to, quote, pay for that, the plan is to go ahead and give them less money in 2016, which, of course, won't happen.
Will never happen.
You've been pretty big on this bailout angle of it, which I don't hear talked about anywhere else. I don't think most people are paying attention to that.
No, and when you hear about it in cerebral media, they call it the Transitional Reinsurance Program or the, quote, 3 Rs program.
Maybe that's why I never noticed it. If somebody used that term, I wouldn't have any idea what they're talking about.
Exactly. It's 3 different forms of buckets of money that will be funneled from premium holders and taxpayers to insurance companies to cover the losses for extraordinarily sick people or claims that go over an anticipated amount. And it's built into the program. It starts this year, and it runs for 3 years. So 2015, 16, and 17. And it's built in, and it's what insurers are in the game for.
And it is the reason why insurers keep making happy noises about Obamacare.
Absolutely.
Because at the minute 2017 and all those subsidies go away, they will be howling from the highest mountaintop that it's an abortion and an abomination and can't possibly work. Now, did you mention that the top amount that an insurance company will pay for any individual person is getting shaved down?
So exactly. The easiest way to think about the bailouts is to say, if an individual person gets really sick, insurance companies are going to get money from the federal government. Well, that amount was going to be $70,000, and that amount has been cut down to $45,000. So basically, the deductible the insurers have to pay is getting halved, while the consumers are getting doubled.
Well, and the taxpayers are going to pay that difference. Yeah, absolutely beautiful.
Yep.
So they just keep making the deal sweeter and sweeter and sweeter and sweeter for the insurance companies to keep them from opening their mouths.
Well, and it's funny because
in defiance, of course, to go back to the basics, from the letter of the law, which was passed barely in the middle of the night.
So on page, it's literally 15 of 324 in this particular release, they labeled this nugget as premium stabilization. You love the Orwellian terms to make it sound wonderful.
Yeah.
Right?
By the way, quick note, Delaney, when I get home, I am going to kick your butt.
Uh-oh.
All right? Do you hear me?
Child abuse.
My 15-year-old daughter.
I hope I don't know what that's about.
That you do know what it's about.
No!
The narrative at my house, Jack, is that Craig and I are having a bromance.
Oh, really?
It's because we go mountain biking together. Delaney will not let up with it. And it is so hilarious.
That's pretty funny.
She was giving me crap yesterday afternoon about it, and I come home, and Craig had thoughtfully, because my helmet is falling apart and scratching at my forehead, he'd bought a Fighting Illini beanie. So I come home with a present from Craig after Delaney had been harassing me. Yeah, no kidding. And she texts me, as I said, you explained it when we were bike riding. My daughter texts me, hang on, bike riding? More like preparing to elope. Oh, God. Oh, I am so going to kick your butt.
Man, I haven't even met her yet. And I'm going to kick her butt.
Yeah, I'm like the third funniest person in my house. It's ridiculous.
I was surprised that the New York Times article a couple of weeks ago, part of the reason might be that it was only on the New York Times website for like a couple hours before it disappeared. The one where it talked about how they're going to double the deductibles for a lot of your ACA people.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned
that. From $2,500, which is a high anyway, to $5,000.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a deductible, $5,000.
I know. It's And it's funny you mentioned that, because part of the regulatory release that was slithered out on Friday, one of the principles that they're looking at doing is to go ahead and put in a default option where when they renew your Obamacare policy, they'll go ahead and increase your deductible to keep your premium within a certain percentage, because that's a little bit more sneaky.
Yeah,
right, but in effect, you don't have insurance until you've paid many thousands of dollars.
That could actually be the default, that when you go to renew your Obamacare, they increase your deductible because they're so horrified at what your premium's going to look like.
Right, and that's playing on the Gruber thing. That just shows that he is right, I guess, that people aren't with it or paying attention enough to get that. Look, okay, so you're paying $150 a month or whatever you find to be inexpensive. You have a $5,000 deductible. Good Lord.
Yeah. Oh, my God. A working class family, that's rough.
The deductible for a family can go as high as $12,600.
Yeah, that's for an individual, right? That $5,000 deductible?
It can go to $6,300. That's the top, or $6,350, I think is the number. But that's the top max, and then double that for a family.
Jeez, $10,000 deductible for a family.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy. Just the bills I've been getting. My wife said the other day, she said, how do people afford this who don't, have good jobs with the deductibles we have now? If you've got a $10,000 deductible, and you're a paycheck to paycheck family, you're just done.
Yeah.
Which is who ACA is aimed at, right? Mostly that crowd.
Exactly.
Well, and, if I'm correct, Craig, the chances of the employer mandate just going away are very good or being significantly altered. The individual mandate has gone away. And so, there are a number of court challenges, but all of the main factors on the paying for it side of the ledger have gotten weakened, eliminated, or delayed. And all of the paying out stuff has been much, much higher than was estimated. And so even the fanciful, ridiculous numbers that the CBO threw out there that were the result of some fakery we talked about the last time you were here. Right. Again, promising savings in the future that will never, ever, ever happen politically. Yeah. And so this thing has become an incredibly lopsided fiscal monstrosity.
Just on the individual mandate, Joe, one of the big things they did on Friday as well was, now remember, just to repeat this, the individual mandate, as of the last CBO report, which came out over the summer, literally said you're roughly going to have 1.4% of Americans ever actually pay that fine. Mm-hmm. Well, what they did on Friday was they made it even easier for an individual to get out of the individual mandate by adding in another list of 6 or so hardship exemptions. And the beauty of this list is you don't even need to go to HHS and file for the exemption. You can just claim it on your taxes default.
So you don't have to show any proof or anything?
No, not for these particular 6 that they just issued. And it has to do with insurance being too expensive, deductible being unaffordable for you. So you can just basically opt out of Obamacare. And once people start to kind of realize that, you're going to have less and less people enrolling. Only the very sickest people enrolling that that would be happy to have a $12,000 deductible. Sure. Once you see these bailouts going away, I just think it's pretty clear, the writing's on the wall, that come 2018, we're going to have to either double down on the bailouts or this thing's going to collapse pretty spectacularly.
And so it'll just be a massive increase in Medicare then, do you suppose? Or
yeah, you could dump all these people into Medi-Cal, Medicare. There's not a whole lot of people that are actually on Obamacare. Most of them are on Medi-Cal, Medicaid.
Right, okay. All right, great. Well, when we come back, let's eat pie.
Yeah,
I've already had some of Marshall's pie. It's very
cheater.
Good.
And we can discuss Jonathan Gruber's assertions and other things.
Jack and Joe, the Obama pardoning the turkeys will take place at 11:15, and their names are, you might want to sit down for the cuteness of this, the names of the turkeys are Mac and Cheese.
Oh, my God. I'm allergic to quaint, and I'm starting to break out.
My favorite side for turkey.
That is so cute. All right, stay tuned. You're listening to the Armstrong and Getty Show.
Oh, good Lord, she had them long 10 legs, couldn't help myself, so I walked up and said, baby, what song you make me...
Welcome to the Armstrong and Getty Show. I'm Jack Armstrong. He's Joe Getty. Getaway day.
Timing.
I'm glad I'm not traveling, but... if you do, it's because you want to get together with family and friends. I understand the reason behind it. I've done it many times in my life, but I'm glad I'm not headed to the airport today.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. The airport? No, nightmare.
On the Wednesday before Thanksgiving? Oh, that's a long haul right there.
I never mind loading up the family truckster and rolling out and hitting somebody's house as long as there's somebody I like. Although when you're a kid, And it's always, it's mom and dad's choice of where you ought to hang out. It's Uncle Jim's or it's Joe from work or somebody or other. And as a kid, you're just getting dragged along and you're wearing your uncomfortable clothes and you're going to have to mind your manners and play with their kids who are not that cool. But you get together. You learn to value it as you go on, and then you get less and less opportunity, I think.
Craig, the Obamacare lawyer, joins us today. And comments were made about Joe and Craig's bromance.
Yes. Yeah, by my child.
This text came in.
Uh-oh.
Text line is 415-295-KFTC. I need Craig and Joe's shoe sizes so I can buy them rollerblades for Christmas. That's pretty funny. Picture you two rollerblading together.
Delaney texted back, abuse. That's beautiful. In our leggings.
Do they say mountain biking while they put up air quotes?
Yeah.
Exactly. Are you guys going mountain biking again?
Yeah, broke-back mountain biking.
Yeah.
Is that the co-host joke of the... No.
That is pretty good.
So Craig and I were also discussing as we were riding along, everybody else is eating pie but me.
Well, that's because you're talking.
Correction, Joe. I'm eating delicious pake.
Oh, that's right.
Yes, I have many questions and no answers as of yet on how this pake came to be, but
that
it is
much
phenomenal.
more important than what I was talking about, which is merely the state of our nation. What would you like to know, young Sean?
It's your first time you've ever had pake?
Yeah, this is very close to the perfect dessert.
Isn't it?
And I'm very curious, how do you do it?
It's essentially a recipe.
The broad base of the question.
It's just tremendous. It's
So is it pancake in place of the pie crust, or is there pie crust in addition to it?
It's pie crust. I ought to get Judy on the phone. But essentially, it's pie crust.
I'll see if I can book her.
And and filling, more or less. But then on top is a layer of cakey,
Almost cookie dough-esque.
almost cookie, almost. It's unique in all the world. I mean, it's a wonder. I lack the words, but it's unbelievably good, and I can't wait to eat on it.
I think I'm in my final days of getting to eat whatever I want because I weighed myself yesterday, and it's the first time I've been up a pound in like months and months and months and months and months after losing 20 pounds being sick.
Yeah.
And I worry that it's going to come back and I'm going to explode past the original weight. Which would be a good thing. I mean I'm healthy and I'm going to live for a while, but...
Well, yeah, you walk into the doctor, he says, Jack, I'm worried about you. And you say, oh, no. And he says, no, you're obese. You're really
Exactly.
fat. The cancer's gone. You're just fat.
Now you're just a fat guy.
Yeah.
I'm worried about that. But
Yeah, well, you live a little.
for today, I'll eat what I want.
So we were talking yesterday while we rollerbladed in our leggings and leg warmers, our yoga pants and our leg warmers.
And our earmuffs.
And our tank tops, the difficulty politically these days is that it's the Twitterverse, the Twitter nation. If you can't summarize an argument in 144 characters, you lose. The current, attention span of Americans is getting so short. And it struck me as we're talking about the hundreds and hundreds of pages of Obamacare regulations that dropped just on Friday. Hundreds of pages. It's precisely the polar opposite of what ought to be. We've got no attention span while the government's become unspeakably complex. It is almost hilarious that back in Abe Lincoln's day, when the government did virtually nothing except, fight the Civil War, obviously, but in terms of your day-to-day life and your working and your eating and your shopping and your store and your farm and the rest of it, the government did nothing.
The federal government?
Well, right, yeah. And the local government hardly did a thing in terms of your day-to-day, minute-to-minute life. But people were willing to stand in a field for 6 hours and listen to people argue about the functioning of the government. Now the government is mind-bogglingly complex. There is no human mind that can possibly comprehend everything it's up to. And we've got like 20 seconds worth of patience to listen about it. Which is I don't know if did Orwell or Huxley or anybody imagine this sort of thing, the oppression of, I don't have time.
I've been saying for a long time, I believe it's the thing is it's financially unsustainable. They know it. And when it all collapses, then it's going to be the argument for universal health care.
Yeah,
by the way,
I
for
think,
those
I
of you
think
at
that's
home.
a very valid track this could take.
I'm sorry, we'll get back to that. The second Jack began to speak, I dove in and grabbed a piece of pumpkin pie. I'm sorry. It sounded like you guys were saying something important. What were you saying?
I've got a couple things to say so you can chew and swallow.
Oh, giddy up.
So I wonder if a Republican candidate shouldn't run on, if Hillary's president, when this collapses, we will end up with universal health care. Because you'd have to have a Democratic, because the Republicans wouldn't go for it. Although if it collapses bad enough, there might not be any way. Because is it possible to unravel this?
Yes.
Could we go back to the way it was? You think we could?
Absolutely. Because remember, even if you believe the administration with all their numbers that they've added on with dental enrollments and whatnot, we're still under 8 million, maybe 7.5 million enrolled, right? But also about 5 million of that is Medicaid. Well, we could just keep that.
But it certainly seems to have had an effect on everybody else's insurance that aren't even involved in Obamacare.
Some of it gets blown out of proportion. I mean, insurance has been going up 10% per year for 10 plus years. Obamacare adds 2 to 3% per year onto that. So it's not a huge, but
For more or less everybody?
For more or less everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And so it exacerbates the problem, but it's not the entire problem by any means. I mean, there are just steps that need to be taken generally. But when I hear this unraveling of Obamacare, there are things you could do. You could keep the exchanges, for example, and ramp back the subsidies, and then they would sort of die on their own effectively. And you could keep the Medicaid expansion, and you could even open it up more if people want to go into Medicaid, because that's really what's going on here anyway. There's not a whole lot of people actually buying Obamacare. It's probably 2 to 3 million.
And so we would find a way to insure people with pre-existing conditions, high-risk pools, whether it's put them on Medicaid or subsidize them somehow or other.
But Medicaid and Medicare are the things that are most likely to bankrupt the nation, aren't
Well, that's
they?
right.
That's a good point.
You need to do separate things to fix those. Well, it's specifically Medicare, really. And Medicaid is not necessarily bankrupting us because the doctors are paid so little on Medicaid. Right. It doesn't cost as much. But
and that's the system where you have worse outcomes on average than not having insurance at all.
Yeah, long-term university studies have shown that you actually either as bad or even worse. Yeah,
lovely. So at that, it's going to take enormous political courage and telling the truth to the American people, who will be willing to hear it and act upon it to save the deal, which brings us back to Jack's collapse scenario.
Well, I think the reason we lose this, we being people that want smaller government, people that want to see a system that works efficiently, is the Obamacare argument in the Twitterverse is very simple. Do you want people to have insurance or not? And, of course, if you don't want people to have insurance, you're an evil monster. So, of course, you want people to have insurance. But then behind the scenes, you have the Jonathan Grubers of the world writing 40,000 pages of regulations that are highly complicated. Maybe less than 0.1% of this population reads that. And that's what's getting crammed down our throats by force of nature.
Well, and Joe's thing about, it's got to fit into a tweet for people to want to explain, that what you just said is so good. Do you want people to have insurance or not? Now poor people have insurance. You're against that?
Exactly.
That's an easy argument for people to understand and fall for.
That's a winner.
And that's what wins.
The argument for why this doesn't work is long and complicated, and you need a chart and the numbers and...
Your argument's the best one I've heard, and that's, do you want single payer? Let's just make this if we want to go single payer, rip the Band-Aid off and do it. Because what we're doing now is actually hurting businesses more. Trying to be in compliance with these thousands of pages that come out every couple of months.
Well, yeah,
it's
we're discussing some of the clients you work with spend an enormous amount of time trying to figure out what the hell to do with this stuff and how to be in compliance and the rest of it. And listen, I suppose some of you either on welfare or you've never paid attention at work or something. But if somebody's doing one thing, they're not doing another. And if you're spending your time, your energy, and your intellectual inspiration on following government rules as opposed to innovating, growing, selling, pleasing your customers, etc., that's why we've got so much unemployment.